Hi, I'm James Hamilton from Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal, and this is our monthly-ish Cool Tools video. These are among the most popular videos we make because we show some cool stuff that we use here in our two workshops. Sort of like show and tell for adults. This time we've got a new shop fan, we've got a clever way to route small parts safely, some precision straight edges that won't break the bank, my favorite beater chisels, and for our cheap tool of the month, some of the coolest tape I've ever used. While we do have 3 sponsors paying the bills for this video, and we're really glad for that, hope that you'll thank them as well, none of the tools that we're going to show you came from those sponsors. They're just cool tools we like to use. If you agree that a tool is cool, please use one of the Amazon links in the notes below this video. Just click on Show More if you're watching this on YouTube. There you can find some more independent reviews, and Amazon gives us a few cents for sending you to their site, so that kind of helps us out. If you want to skip ahead to a particular tool, those links are in the notes below as well. But you definitely should watch the entire video because it's full of cool tools. Now let's get started. I use a gas wall heater in this workshop. It's very efficient and it puts out a lot of heat. But the problem is the heat goes right up to the ceiling above it, and 3/4 of the shop just stays cold. For a long time I hung a fan, this one here, from the ceiling above the heater to blow the heat back down toward the floor and across the shop. It worked okay. It didn't move a lot of air, and my bench area over here at this end of the shop was always cold. This year I solved that problem by getting some new fans from a website called NewAir. They have 2 models, one that stands on the floor on a bench and one that hangs from the ceiling. I mounted one of the ceiling hanging ones above my heater, and I angled it downward toward the floor in the center of the shop. The air bounces off the floor in my table saw and it spreads all over my 17x24 shop. There are 3 speeds. I usually run it on medium because I don't want a breeze blowing on me in the wintertime. But in summer, when it's hot out, I'll probably appreciate that breeze a little bit more. Despite all the air movement though, it doesn't seem to kick up a lot of dust. I do run an ambient air filter to collect the really fine stuff I'm sure is in the air. But it is a workshop, and over time dust will build up around the motor. In fact, it did on my old fan. And this is a fire hazard. I never ran this fan if I wasn't in the shop to keep an eye on it. But this new fan has a sealed motor to keep the dust out. That was a big factor for me. I really like these fans, and if you need to move some air around your shop, I'll put a link to their website in the notes below this video. I'm writing a book about router techniques right now, and there's a whole section about safety. One of the fundamental rules I have is to never route small pieces freehand. It's just too dangerous. One of my favorite devices for this is this small piece holder. It looks simple, but it's really well thought out with some features that aren't apparent at first glance. For one thing, there's a quick release to quickly set the holder to the width of your workpiece, where a turn of this knob will clamp it in place. There's a nice grippy surface inside the jaws for more security, and an adjustable hold down pin to keep the workpiece flat on the table. It simply is not going anywhere. I love the handles and the wide footprint. It feels like it's really stable. I have lots of control. If I'm working with an extra thick workpiece, I can attach an outrigger block with screws so I have the same stability. It works with stock up to 8.5 inches wide, and it's designed for use with bearing guided router bits. I can't stress enough how important it is to keep your fingers away from the bits. And clever jigs like this make that easy. I'll put a link to it in the notes below this video if you want to learn more. Sometimes you need a set of chisels that you can just use and abuse. That's what these are for. You may recall in our last Cool Tools video, I compared the Stanley Sweetheart and the Stanley Bailey chisels. Those are for the nice work. These are for beating the crap out of things. When I was chopping joints in pressure-treated lumber this past summer, I used my Fat Max Chisels. When I had to trim a door frame to install new flooring last fall, Fat Max Chisels. When someone asks me to borrow a chisel, guess what they get? My Fat Max Chisels. These are as close to indestructible as you can get because they are one continuous chunk of steel from the blade up through the handle to the cap. You can whack them with a big hammer and all the energy transfers directly to the tip of the chisel. 100 years ago, Stanley made what they called their everlasting chisels, which had that same continuous steel shaft design. They remain one of the best chisels ever made and are highly prized by collectors. I can't bring myself to bang on mine. But the Fat Max chisels provide that same rugged construction at a fraction of the price. I think you can get a 3-piece set for between 20 and 30 bucks. And really, 3 pieces is all you need. I have more than that, but I do most of everything with my 1/2 inch, 3/4, and 1 inch chisels. Most of mine also look a little different than the newer ones because I've had mine for years and they've since changed the look so that you can see that shaft inside the handle. But they're still the same tough chisels. I'll put links in the notes below so you can check them out. Let me be straight with you. Get it? Every woodworker needs a good straight edge. Most of the time a ruler will work. In a pinch, you could use a 48-inch level if it's good quality. But sometimes you need real precision. In the past, I would use this gigantic machinist triangle, but it weighs like 15 pounds. It's not very long, and I doubt you could find one at a reasonable price. That's the problem with precision straight edges. They're usually really expensive. But lately, I've been using these aluminum ones. I got mine at a woodworking show, and I just love them. They're lightweight and well machined. I know they're straight because I can put two of them together and I can't see any light between them. That's straight enough for woodworking. I use them for tool setup, such as at the jointer, or to level the wings on my table saw, or to check a long workpiece for flatness. I even use them occasionally as winding sticks to gauge the twist in a board. I especially like the way they're molded, which makes them easy to hold so you don't drop them, which could compromise the precision of any precision straight edge. Mine are gold, color, not actual gold, but there are some on Amazon that are exactly the same, but black. If you've been looking for an affordable, accurate straight edge, I'll put a link in the notes below this video. And that brings us to our bargain tool of the month. This is Guard-Tex Tape, and it is awesome. I discovered this years ago after people went nuts in the comments section in a video that showed me wearing gloves while working with rough sawn wood. In order to set a better example, while also protecting my fingers from splinters, I started using this tape. I wrap a bit around each fingertip. It only sticks to itself, not to your fingers. So what you end up with is custom coverings wherever you want them. You can make them as thick as you need based on how much protection you require, and you'll be protected from cuts and scrapes without worrying about gloves that hang loosely or that make your fingers too bulky to pick things up. I even put a few wraps around my thumb to protect it while wood carving. I really like this stuff. It has a lot of different uses and it's pretty cheap, less than $5 a roll. You should really keep some in your workshop too. I'll link to it in the notes below. Well, that wraps things up for this edition of Cool Tools. Please remember to use the links in the notes below this video if you want to help us out a bit. Thanks in advance for that. And be sure to check out the latest issue of Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal. It's always full of great tips, tricks, and tutorials designed to make you a better woodworker. You can read and subscribe for free at stumpynubs.com. Then you can sit back and have yourself a cold one, because you've earned it, my friend.